Welcome back, everyone. Now, we all know that the education market is thriving and particularly critical at present as we try and help our young people recover from the effects on their education of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hosting an expert roundtable on this now is Cambion's Jean-Francois Fontaine-Bouillet, who joins me now. Hi, JF.
Thank you, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very excited by the discussions that we've already had today. So I'm now going to hand over the roundtable mantle to you and your epic team. So I will leave you to it, but I will be watching with interest.
Well, thanks a lot. And indeed, it was really insightful what you heard before, and I was following this, with scrutiny because I really learned a lot from our partners, and this is the aim of this over panel discussion.
Okay, yeah, they've been doing great. Anyway, I'm going to exit left or right, depending on the technology, and leave you with your guest speakers to come on board.
Thanks a lot. And I've been told recently that when using pictures or video of a cat, you are incrementing the number of views. So I have invited my cat to join me. Actually, she invited herself. So you could see her in the background. Back to the education. As a strategic vertical director in EMEA, I'm clearly, working a lot with education partners. We are developing bespoke solution for this environment. And I'm really happy today to host a panel discussion with 3 partners. 2 are actually coming from UK, 1 from Germany. And I will be happy to have them with me in a minute or so. Just before, I would like to speak about education. In the past, we were only connecting facilities for staff purposes only. Then we moved to teachers and finally to students. We had an incremental number of devices, of application in this environment that really worth a session. Why? Because we were looking at education. Now we're talking about EdTech. EdTech as technologies is everywhere in education, from primary to high school to university. We have the connectivity not only indoor but also outdoor for every kind of purpose, on-site, remote learning, and it's growing. So it's not only about giving a Wi-Fi access to devices. It's also controlling the network, managing the network, managing the use cases actually. So to speak about this environment and how our partners are coping with the challenges of education, I will call next to me on stage Darren Bagnall, Gareth Locke, and Christian Schmidt. Welcome with me. Welcome to this panel discussion. I will briefly introduce all of you, and I will give you the ability to speak and tell us about your background with Cambium. So Darren Bagnall, you're the owner and director of AGP Networking Limited, based in UK.
Good afternoon, JF, and thank you very much for your kind invitation to join today's roundtable. Yes, I'm Darren Bagnall, owner and co-director of AJP Solutions. We are a 10-year partner with originally Xeris. We entered the high-density Wi-Fi market with the Xeris product line, working in large public venue and education. And we have enjoyed the path, the journey, as Xeris became part of Cambium ultimately. I'm very excited to continue the partnership and look forward to contributing today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Darren. Next to Darren, we have Gareth Locke, which is the director and co-founder of Strive Consultancy Solution, based in UK as well.
Afternoon. It's good to actually be here. Very similar to Darren. Darren and I actually know each other quite well. We've been close allies for many, many years, coming back from the Xeris times as well. We were formed out of a BYOD environment. So very happy to be here, and thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Gareth. Christian Schmidt, the next one. So you're the IT solution engineer of Optima Computer Services, based out of Germany. How are you, Christian?
Yes, hello. Thank you for the introduction. I'm fine. As you said, I'm an IT solution engineer in Germany at a quite small MSP. And we are working in several education network structure projects recently. And I'm particular building an access point control app using the Cambium API to help the teachers individually control their networks, the network access for the people in their classrooms. Other fields I'm in is the Microsoft Team Cosmos, where I help together with my colleagues to set up customers to work with Microsoft Teams and integrate their workflows with Teams. That's coming more and more up with the home office environment recently. And today I'm excited to hear about the challenges in other countries. I only know about Germany, what we have to face, and I would like to hear if what's the same in English in the English countries or. Yeah.
I guess it would be the same, indeed. So Darren, maybe we can start with you. I have a bunch of questions to ask you, to the three of you, and I want to hear back, and it will give definitely Christian, but all the audience, the kind of feedback that they are looking for in terms of best practices all around the world and all around the EA right here. So Darren, what, if you need to envision the future of education market, what are you expecting out of the digital transformation?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's a very relevant question right now, particularly given what has happened in the past 18 months with the pandemic. So critical to digital transformation are kind of 5 pillars. There's strategy. The organization must have a solid and well-defined strategy, which is then backed up by very good leadership. So the stakeholders of the organization, of the educational establishment, be it primary, secondary, or third level university education, we believe that they need to be invested in the idea and the notion of developing a digital transformation strategy. The staff also need to be capable, so ensuring that you have the right people in the organization driving the project that is then handed on to the users. So there is some user buy-in. There's the largest consideration in success is still user acceptance, and then there's also got to be a cultural acceptance that or a cultural desire to move forward with digital transformation in the educational establishment. The biggest thing, the biggest challenge, of course, is underpinning all of those notions with the correct funding to achieve the process and go through the path of digital transformation. And that's challenging in some environments in the UK and less so in others. We find there is a greater level of preparedness in the higher levels of education, so third level colleges and universities, where there are both vocational and educational focuses. We find it even more accessible and more achievable in privately funded educational establishments, whereas the publicly funded primary and secondary sphere is much more challenging. But we believe the pandemic has kick-started a lot of activity. Schools have taken the opportunity to avail of grant funding, so government-backed funding to provide budgets for the projects to progress. And we've seen an awful lot of take-up and migration from old iterations of enterprise Wi-Fi into the Wi-Fi 6 market. And one of the neat things is that Cambium, with their highly disruptive price point in the Wi-Fi 6 market space, coupled with CN Maestro and it being available free of charge and underpinned by CN Matrix, has made it a much quicker path for us to start to help customers go embark on their journey of digital transformation to create smarter environments in the education space.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Indeed, the funding challenge and the preparedness of the decision makers are two issues or two obstacles that we need to cope with. Christian, may I ask you, what does make a school network different from any other network?
Well, the school methods, one of the main differences is that in a school network compared to a company network, you have a lot of media consumption and a lot of wireless Wi-Fi devices, which are all accessing high bandwidth applications at the same time. We have a private school. Every class uses the laptop or iPad all the time, and they consume videos, they consume applications in every single minute of the hour, and that's the main difference between a company where you have maybe thousands of employees, but they hardly use the internet on a non-stop basis and hardly consume media. So you have to be sure that you get the throughput, the bandwidth for all these applications on point. It's not about having the most effective distribution of access points, like in a company where you have to be cost effective, but it's about having the bandwidth available when you need it.
So it's definitely the bandwidth, but I guess it's also the control as well.
Yeah, that's another thing. In Germany, the teachers are responsible for what the students do online. So you need very good content filters, and you need a good logging, and every student has to have his own account where you can trace what they do online. So you can investigate it if needed.
And I guess it is definitely useful to share the bandwidth for sure, but also to make sure that the attention is proper toward the right topics. Gareth, would you mind telling us, about a major school network deployment that you would have done recently during the pandemic that would have been way different from what you used to handle usually?
I think Darren would probably agree with me in the UK that no schools are ever alike, and every single school you go into is definitely a challenge. One of the biggest projects we've actually undertaken in the past 12 months was actually a group of colleges. And as it was stated earlier, you've got a lot of demand from what Christian was saying as well, using the internet an awful lot. What the pandemic basically showed us with this particular site was within the colleges themselves, each college had its own unique set of parameters. They wanted a particular request. They wanted a particular type of software. It had to be deployed in a particular manner. They needed external access points. They needed high density, and you just needed basic coverage. And one of the major challenges that we had with that was, of course, you can't go in. You can't look at the site. You can't get a feel for it. You can't do the surveys. There's nothing you could do about it. So what we're having to do was basically become an extension to the actual IT team themselves. So what we did is we actually trained them up on how to do surveys virtually, first of all. What we then did is we did a couple of Go sessions. We did online tutorials, did some videos for them. And by the time it was done, it was a case of, right, instead of just doing one or two colleges, we want to do the complete group itself. That group of colleges happens to be about 18, all in one sitting. And as Darren mentioned earlier, funding is a huge issue in the UK at the minute. And you can go around for different grants, you can go around and try and pull from different resources. How we actually managed to get the whole deal through as a big group was effectively going through that of a medical tender process by using the wireless for track and trace. And that was the only way of actually getting it through on a stable platform without any other way of any form of competition. So we took the likes of Meraki, Ruckus, Aerohive, any other wireless manufacturer competitor wasn't able to bid on it because it was a hidden tender. So by the time we were done, the actual deployment was about 725 access points. And it's going to take the best part of a year to actually deploy. But to answer your question, if you want to talk about a challenging site, that definitely ticks all the boxes.
It is one of you mentioned the difficulty to expand or work on behalf of the IT team. What is actually happening in primary schools where there's no IT resources on site?
So
it is relevant because it is a big portion of the business,
yeah.
And it is a challenge for every partner going into this vertical and trying to perform some installation in places where you're actually the one knowing what needs to be done and without any backup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've got my own opinion on that, and we've had our own experiences. I'm sure Christian and also Darren will want to answer this as well. From a primary school perspective, what people are looking for, in my opinion, from what we've seen in the past 12 to 18 months, has been they want to give the project away. They want someone else to deal with it. They just want it to work. It needs to be cost effective. It needs to be done the moment you get, you have the conversation, they give you a purchase order. They want it done the very next day. And of course, stock's an issue, resources are an issue. And for all things that are warranted within wireless, they want the same experience that they get at home. So they want to go into the lounge in the home, they've got good Wi-Fi, they go to the bedroom, the toilet, wherever the case is. They want that same seamless experience in a primary school. And Christian, you can probably fill me in on this one as well. But when you look at some of the primary schools in the UK, it's like walking into a tin shed sometimes. The wireless just bounces around in the same room and doesn't bleed, especially when it comes to Wi-Fi 6.
Yeah, what I can say is that in the first step, we have set up the teachers with iPads or with wireless access in primary schools. Not so the student, that's not so important because the kids are small. They don't even can work with the iPads or anything. So it makes more sense to focus on the teachers. And they need to have a flawless experience with their smart boards. They create the content on the iPads and send it to the smart boards and use it like this. And that works very good in primary schools, in our experience.
It's really about sharing the content on the smart board and enabling,
Yes.
a different way of teaching to the students. Definitely. A question for you, Christian. You mentioned it earlier. How do you manage to switch off when you ask the internet connection during courses?
Yeah, so we have two systems. One system is third party. You can enable internet access for particular students or disable it or make it available just for a group. And then we have built our own solution where you can not also limit the strength of the Wi-Fi, because we have customers that want to limitate the Wi-Fi signals to a minimum for health purpose. So we have to set every access point individually, and have also set them offline if they don't need. So we need a solution where a teacher can enable the whole Wi-Fi for the classroom with an easy click, and that is very easy to accomplish with the Cambium API. Yeah, basically you need the Cambium API from CN Maestro, build a guide around it, and you can put them in the hands of the teachers, and they know exactly what to do with it. You have only like 2 buttons on and off.
Yeah. You are placing more access point then, because the solution requires 1 access point per room. So you need to increase the number of access point, which is fair, fair for us.
So we have 1 access point per room, but the access point itself is not on full signal strength. It's always only for the room. So when you are outdoor or when you're out on the floor, you don't have access. You don't have the signal from this access point. And when this access point is turned really low or off for the students, then you have only the friction just to turn it on again.
Okay.
The friction of the signal.
In the primary school space, we assume a slightly different posture. We assume like an MSP position, really. So we design carefully before we do anything else. We design really, really carefully. The last thing that we want to do with a primary school is install a Wi-Fi network that doesn't meet the coverage and capacity requirements of the environment, and that works within the RF limitations of the building. And then we leverage the cloud. As you said, JF, primary schools don't have an IT manager. They don't have an IT admin. Normally, it's a teacher who picks up the pieces and who would generally feel really nervous about having ownership of the technology. We take a very cautious approach, but we manage everything through the cloud. We use CN Maestro and we use XMSC in those environments. And then to the same point Christian made about access or scheduling of availability, we just orchestrate that remotely at their request. But we also work to upskill 1 or 2 people in the school. And generally that makes things a bit easier. If they can be partially self-sufficient, great. And we like to think that they only escalate to us when it's either something beyond their pay grade or an emergency. And invariably, we don't field too many calls because we get the environment nice and balanced. As you work through the size of schools, as they get bigger in secondary environments, there might be an IT admin who may have some networking skills, and we work in the same way. But where there are better skilled people, we're really careful to do like a thorough transition, get them to self-enroll on Cambium Learning, get them to self-enroll on the relevant training course, which is free to access and very, very accessible. And we encourage them to become self-sufficient. And then again, we step in when it's third level escalation on a local basis. And where it's technical, we escalate to Cambium. University is very, very different. There will be an IT group. There will be a network admin. And similarly, we go through the process very carefully, very thoroughly to ensure that the handover is complete. And that they ultimately become self-sufficient, and that their third line relationship is not with us, it's direct with Cambium support.
A question for you regarding the ability to let teachers teaching. How do you train them when handling this MSP role? Because I'm sure you need some education training to the teachers to have them raising the right question whenever necessary, using the tools, or reaching out to you. So how do you perform that? What are you actually doing in this matter?
Okay, so in some environments we use third-party monitoring. We will use user experience monitoring from other vendors. We will install probes on site, which we can access through our cloud platform. And troubleshoot remotely. But in terms of allowing the teachers to do their job, really, it all begins with getting it right at the start. Get the design right, install correctly, test and validate, go through the wireless lifecycle process, and ensure that the delivery is sound, it's dependable when we leave the site, and encourage particularly in the primary school, the kind of the notional owner of the environment, the notional IT person, encourage them to become familiarized with the cloud platform, whether it's CN Maestro or XMSC, so that they can carry out the rudimentary changes and checks that they may need to do, and that they call us only when they kind of find they're in trouble.
Thanks a lot. Works, looks fine. A question regarding implementation this time, Gareth. Maybe you want to answer. Are from your perspective, indoor and outdoor facilities equally covered in school environment? Meaning that are the decision makers asking you finally to cover both indoor and outdoor spaces the same way?
It's a good question, and one of the main concerns we always have whenever we're talking about that is historically there's a legacy price tag to outdoor Wi-Fi. So if you look at Xeris in the past, the outdoor enclosures which look like UFOs were absolutely extortionate in terms of pricing, and whereas the business has changed hands a couple of times now, Cambium is known with its pedigree for being outdoor with point-to-point, point-to-multi-point, and of course outdoor coverage. It does make the proposition all the more sweeter. To answer your question with regards to education, if they need outdoor and indoor, obviously it's a given. They want cross-blanket coverage. Outdoor's a little bit more tricky. You tend to find there's only a couple of areas. There'll be a tennis courts for registration, a sports field, which might be very, very far away. But it's trying to get the customer understanding to the same level as yourself. You could have the Wi-Fi signal going 2 football pitches in terms of length, and it could give the signal strength all the way to that device, but that device won't be strong enough to actually send stuff back. And of course, we do get a lot of people saying to us, why is it not working, even on trial? Exactly. So to answer your question, the biggest outdoor requirements we've had recently has been for colleges, mainly, believe it or not, for smoking areas. When they're actually outdoor. It's quite surprising, really, isn't it, in the UK?
It is matching the education environment, but yeah, I can understand it's becoming an issue. And with this matter of enabling Wi-Fi access from an outdoor perspective, did you, because of COVID, work on remote Wi-Fi accesses on the parking lots of universities or schools to connect people in the surrounding or students parking on the facility?
No, we've not really seen that, to be fair.
Okay, this was something that in the US really worked really well, where people were struggling at home to have a fair connection and had to drive to the university, then park their car and could benefit from a really good connection. But this I guess is coming from the different size of countries and this another word. Yeah. Thank you.
We have seen one instance, again, a large group of third level, I say a large group, it's a regional group of third level colleges with about 18,000 students, more or less. And they, following the first lockdown or during the first lockdown, they invested heavily in creating the access mechanism to the colleges, turning it into a contactless experience. It also linked with the UK government or the England and Wales government track and trace app, so that when the students arrived at college, they had a face scan and they checked in with the app. The scanner was taking a temperature reading, was recording their student identity number as they entered the college, talking to the app, and then the app would upload to the government database, allegedly, but more came out about that afterwards. It wasn't very effective, but they leveraged Wi-Fi to enable all of those functions, and furthermore, they leveraged Wi-Fi to digitize the library and digitize the learning materials that were being handed down by the teachers and professors and so on. And it revolutionized their thought process around how they will manage that number of people, that number of students on a continuing basis. So as we come out of the second and third lockdown in the UK, that college has become, talking to the IT manager this morning, he said it's become a very, very different place. It's very different in terms of human interaction because there is still social distancing measures in place, but that will change. However, the means by which they're teaching young people has become, to the point of digital transformation earlier, it has become very much more digitized, and Wi-Fi is the underpinning technology for that.
Yeah, it does, and the fact that we had some remote learning either on a partial basis or on a full-time basis dramatically changed the relationship with technology. Wi-Fi internet connectivity became, from a widget for some families, became something that they couldn't live without, because it was a necessity, and it's changing, thanks to that. I have another question for the three of you, actually, and this is just this is a question you may answer or not. Are school networks often used for community events after school hours? Because we are seeing schools at an enterprise with given hours, with type of employees, type of users, but I guess from time to time, schools are also used for other purposes, and I would like to understand how you're coping with that as an MSP, as a system integrator, as a company. So if you have any examples, I would be happy to hear them from you.
Well, I'll jump in first if that's okay with yourself there. When you look at the actual schools and the colleges, you've got these fabulous facilities, so sports fields, you've actually got the main sports halls, you've got the drama studios, and some of these, they've got the occupational capacity, which is potentially huge. being able to actually outsource that and rent it out is another source of income for them that can sometimes go back into the actual school budgets, and that can go back into more investment. Obviously, with the past 18 months and the pandemic, especially with the lockdowns, that's had to stop. But as we started to see it ease a little bit more, the outdoor play areas, the outdoor socializing areas, the sports facilities are starting to be used an awful lot more. We are starting to see a little bit more in terms of some more privatized schools, should we say, starting to look as to how to monetize that functionality as well, how to actually buy into the wireless so the money goes back in to the system again. So to answer your question is, yes, it is happening and it's gradually coming back, although the brakes were put on obviously because of good old COVID.
Yeah.
In Germany, we have courses for adults, like teaching in the evening, where they can develop their skills, and that some schools give their rooms for the adult teaching, and that's where it's used mostly outside of the actual school environment.
And then how do you cope with this incremental need for connectivity? Do you add those people to the existing users? Do you do that on just by adding them as any normal business, or do you charge for this? I mean, do you handle this differently than what the day work? This is what I mean.
So yeah, it's like user profiling using a guest management platform. We will make guest Wi-Fi available in many schools and colleges with self-registration. Once we've recorded the user, that data is often fed back into the school or the local authority, the local council to their marketing activity. It depends largely as well on whether the school is publicly funded or if it's privately funded. If it's publicly funded, generally there is community access to the building when school is finished, or to the sports facility, there may be a gym aligned to the property. And so, yes, it's part of the guest service. If people are paying to use the gym or the swimming pool or play football or hockey in the evening, if there is Wi-Fi, and generally there is, we make it available. But we use a guest management platform, either the integral free-to-use elements of XMS or CN Maestro, or where the customer is more intent on leveraging information, we'll use a third-party commercial solution.
Okay, thanks a lot. It does help, and I think thanks to both XMS and CN Maestro advanced features, we are answering all those requests, all those additional needs. Maybe the last question for the three of you, and if we can answer quickly. Would you have an example of a way you have dramatically change, the life of a school thanks to connectivity, in a few words?
I'll go first, if that's all right. Always seem to want to enter in the building first anyway. We do an awful lot with multi-academy trusts who happen to be on different domains. So what we're doing at the minute as a part of the projects moving forward for connectivity is to bring them all under one domain. So it makes the pedagogical changes a lot more acceptable. So teachers can go from one school to another. They can emigrate between the different sites. The kids can also go up in terms of the actual school years and go from primary to the infants, or then go up to secondaries, and then so on. And it's all being part of that same journey within the school education system.
Yes, that's the same what I would say. The single sign-on features. We do whatever we can with Azure ID and try to make one account for a student for his whole career in the school. Yeah, it's flawless. Changing classes, working with it should be an integrated solution and not always like patchwork.
Agreed.
And that's what was driving forward through the pandemic, where you have to make a simple and easy to use solution that's adopted by everyone easily.
Is it the case, Christian, in Germany, that all students benefit from one single account across their academic career?
Sorry?
Do they have one single account for all the all the facilities they will be studying in?
Not all the facilities, but in one school you have the same account for everything. Yeah, you can use it to log into your Wi-Fi. You can use it to log into your Teams account. You can use it to log into the Mensa plan, for example.
Any application. So maybe this is something to push.
So
you have
something you get in the university 10 years ago. It's now coming to the primary and secondary schools.
This makes sense. Of course. Yeah. Darren, if you want to conclude with
I refer to the example I gave earlier, where we made it a contactless college. 18,000 students who they don't need to go in the library. Everything. The college leveraged Wi-Fi for every element of the student activity at the four sites that college comprises. In terms of its humanitarian impact, it was intended to track and trace that group of people in that county of the United Kingdom, and feed as best as possible to the COVID containment program that was in place and remains in place.
And it was definitely helpful. And when I was raising this question, I was actually thinking about some region of the EMEA. When we are handling connectivity in Africa, bringing connectivity to some villages, actually it enables the access to education, because from a day to another, you have access to education, you have access to work, you have access to remote business, you have access to all kinds of activities that otherwise and opportunities otherwise you wouldn't, because of lack of connectivity, and this is something definitely magic in Africa, because we are starting from scratch, and in Europe, we have already some connectivity or fiber next door, or even a bad connectivity, but we do have things to rely on, and we can build on that. So this is where I was thinking of things that could really be impactful on lives of not only students but also school staff. Well, I want to thank you. It was a really interesting discussion. I will give you the opportunity to share with us, a few more words, and we'll have to give the stage back to Brian. Darren, do you want to go first?
I'd just like to say thanks again for the opportunity to join the roundtable today. We have enjoyed the journey with Xeris through the period with Riverbed and emerged into the brave new world of Cambium Networks. We're excited to continue doing what we're doing and to keep growing the business, and excited about what's coming down the line in terms of new products all the time. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah,
I'll mention now, thank you again. I'll echo the words of Darren. It's been an absolute pleasure seeing the business change hands again for the better, should we say. It's been fabulous to see the Xeris product line go back to the days of old, where the technology is actually being developed. And you've also got the support there in the background. It's been an absolute pleasure to see that, and it's really helped grow our business. So thank you for having us as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the well-organized expert round, and I'm looking forward to see the networks all over the schools growing and the education market develop. So we have finally a modern and competitive schooling in Europe again. I think we lag a little bit behind these days, but we will get there. With the help of Cambium and other great network partners, we can do it. I think the technology is there. There needs to be some acceptance, but we will get there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Christian. Thank you, everyone. If I may remind something for the other service providers and managed service providers listening to us today, we do have an education program that we have launched nearly 2 years back now. So look for our channel portal and the education program. You can easily register when downloading the form and applying to join the program. It will give you access to some specialty discounts, specific content, specific support for the education purposes, and beside education, we have, of course, some other programs in place. But definitely, the education program is a way to build a community around the same challenges that you're facing, the same opportunities that you can answer with Cambium Networks equipment. So bear with us. Keep visiting our website. I've been told earlier that we have 2 sponsors to visit. So if you don't know how to handle that, well, go to the bottom of the platform. You have several options beside the main stage. You can watch for the sponsor. And among the sponsor, I'm actually highlighting one booth where I'm showing the service provider platform that we have just launched 2 weeks back. So this is where we are. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Christian. Have a wonderful day, and really hope to meet with you sometime soon. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very
Likewise.
much.
Take care now.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, JF. That was a fascinating session, just showing how the education market is growing, and what we're trying to provide is so much more advanced now. So thank you all. Fascinating.
Thanks, Brian.